Hi guys, I'm Nams, and today we got a special one. We're having a look at the Effect Audio x Elysian Acoustics Labs GAEA collaboration set. This video is not sponsored, and the set was purchased with my own money, and all thoughts and opinions are my own. Let's begin. Starting with the unboxing, this is an absolute stunning box with GAEA written in gold and the goddess GAEA just printed over it with like little hints of golden flakes. Look at the box, it's gorgeous. When you open the box, you're presented with a fancy note from Effect Audio and Mr. Lee Kwan Min. And when you lift it up, there they are, the jewels of this review, sitting beautifully in the case. Definitely a gorgeous presentation. Most IEMs at this price point tend to be really fancy packaged and so on. Now, for the accessories, you're provided with a suede case with the logos embossed, a cleaning tool, 3 tips, which are the spin fit W1 tips, and they're provided with in small, medium, and large, no XL sizes, and a microfiber cloth with the logo embossed. Now, I would have personally liked if they included a metal puck or a travel case alongside the case, or maybe added a zipper on the case itself, because even though it's nice and it feels nice to the touch, this thing like attracts lint and dust like it's no one's business. It's every time I've put it in a pouch or anything, that I've always had to grab a lint remover and clean it, and it's impractical. It doesn't lock, it doesn't close shut. I get they're sticking to a theme and trying to make it seem all luxurious and premium, but that would have been a nice addition. As well as that, the lack of tips, like the W1 tips are good, but I've seen IEMs for much cheaper provided with not only like Sedna X-Lactics, they usually have like a wide array of like premium tips, which is a shame at the price point of $1,300 US. It's crazy. Now, moving on to the shells. The shells are gorgeous. They've got this wood resin finish. It's kind of like those like videos, you know, where you watch those videos where people fill wood with resin and it's all in these beautiful colors and stuff. It's got that sort of look, and it's even prettier in person. And that theme of blue and gold is then carried on throughout the cable, all the way to the Y splitter and to the termination. Now, the cable itself comes in 4.4, 3.5, and 2.5, but you gotta select it at purchase. It's a shame they didn't include the whole Termex interchangeability, which they have on a lot of Effect Audio's cables, and because the set's $1,300, I would have expected that, which is also a shame. And even though the cable looks gorgeous, it does feel pretty stiff, and when you try to wrap it up and stuff, you need to tie it up, or else it's gonna go everywhere. And there's been times where I literally lean to the left or the right, and the Y splitter swings across, and the cable's so stiff that the IEMs would sometimes fall out of my ears because of how heavy it is. Moving on to the most important bit of this review, which is the sound. The GAEA features a 4-way crossover with one Foster dynamic driver for the bass, and 2 BAs for the mids, and 2 BAs for the highs. All the BAs are Sunyon BAs. All my testing was done on the Sony WM1 AM2, Cayenne RU6, RU7, on low gain with the provided stock tips using Tidal Max. Now, let's start with the bass. What can I say? It has a very balanced sounding bass presentation, which goes very deep, and it's quite substantial, but it's in no way overwhelming, while maintaining a good level of speed and tactility, making it very versatile across a wide range of genres, whether it's hip hop, metal, rock, pop, old school pop, J-pop. This set works really well across many genres. Now, that bass, it's not quite singularity levels or like fat frequency levels of bass quantity, as some of those sets have, but definitely something bass heads can appreciate in terms of quality, as it has a decent amount of rumble and a good amount of decay, but it's not too much decay where to the point where it has that subwoofer type sound. It's kind of reminiscent of it, but on pop tracks it does still keep up by providing really fast transients, making it a very solid bass. It's not outstanding in all regards, but it hits all the boxes, I would say, in a fun way and not in a boring way at all. And the other way I could compare this is, if you guys have heard the Monarch Mark III or the Chopin, it's the perfect middle ground between the Monarch Mark III's rumble and the Chopin's tactility in terms of decay, impact, and speed. When listening to musical scores such as Destroyer of Worlds by Ludwig Göransson, the rumble and the thumps with the occasional deep drum hits almost give like a cinema-like feel that engulfs around you. It kind of gives this stagey bass presentation. The notes linger in just the right ways. It's great. Now moving on to the most important bit of this set, which is the mids. This is a vocal lover's wet dream, and if you're someone who values neutrality, this set is not for you, as it might come across too vocal forward, shouty, or even fatiguing to many. However, if you're someone who really enjoys female vocals, or even listen to a lot of hip-hop, though it can sound artificially vocal-centric, depending on your tolerances, it may not be unpleasant at all. On some songs, vocals sound syrupy with a good amount of richness. Doesn't matter if it's male vocals or female vocals, they come across as if the artist is right in front of you, singing to their full potential, to the point where you can hear the grittiness of their voice. And this works really well with the bass, because depending on what song you're listening to, you can hear the bass come in and the mids come in, but they never really veil each other, and it's almost side by side. You can hear them in all their glory. Now, obviously, there is a catch. The catch is, it's a hit or miss. On some tracks, the mids can get a bit too shouty. And what I mean by that is they start to hit that pin again, and it can be definitely unpleasant, especially if you're on a really linear source. Depending on whether it's the new style of pop, if you're listening to Taylor Swift, stuff like that can sound pretty shouty. And stuff that lacks bass, you might not enjoy this set. And what I found is most of the tracks that I listen to tend to have a good amount of bass alongside mids. So I haven't run into this issue that many times, but there were times where I would listen to, let's just say, an anime intro or like ending song, and some of those tracks don't have the greatest bass or sub bass, because that's just the nature of the track, and it does come across pretty shouty. Now, there is a way to combat that. If you pair it with a warmer source, you might be able to combat that and make it a little bit more pleasant, but just beware of that. If you guys ever get a chance to demo it, you will know what I mean, in the sense that the presentation of the vocals themselves is not bad at all. I'd say it's one of the best in terms of the presentation, but the emphasis of the mids in comparison to the bass and the treble, depending on the genre and songs that you listen to, because this is a versatile set until it's not. So that is a major thing to keep an eye out for sure. I think the whole point of the tuning was, it was never intended to sound neutral. I think it was tuned in a way where even though it artificially brings the vocals forward, and it might sound artificially vocal forward, the vocals themselves come across syrupy, rich, not thin at all, and pair this with a warm source, and that can solve that issue big time. And obviously, when we're talking about IEMs at this price point, you want the IEM to be so solid that you shouldn't have to pair it with another source. And that does bother me with this set, that if I was to try and get the most enjoyability out of this while having the most enjoyable less fatiguing experience I can, I have to pair this with a warmer source, especially the RU6 and non-oversampling, because that gives it a treble roll-off, and the mids in the treble is no longer as harsh. The bass gets a bit more rumbly, and I would say that is even more of a fun type of sound. And it would have been nice to see that tuned into the set. Now, for the last bit, which is the treble and the techs, I would say they're definitely what I would consider endgame, top of the line, definitely. The treble comes across very sparkly, but it's also strong and authoritative. And you could take this another way. It could come across sibilant to you. But when we're talking about really busy tracks, we're talking about Vivaldi, we're talking about Ludwig Göransson's musical scores, Hans Zimmer. There's a lot of layering in those tracks. And sometimes things can sound like a muddy mess if there's not a good amount of instrument separation and imaging. With these sets, when you're listening to those kind of tracks, you can almost tell where each and every instrument player is sitting, where the violinist is sitting, where the cello is sitting. It's unreal. I wouldn't say it's the best in its class, because there are definitely other top of the line sets that it has to answer to, but definitely endgame. When it comes to cymbal crashes and percussions or upper registers of female vocals, depending on the track you're listening to, it can come across very smooth throughout the presence and air regions, but I have found that on really energetic and treble heavy genres, it can be fatiguing. And on some songs, I've found that on some albums, I can't listen to these sets for more than 30 minutes. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I would compare this in terms of sibilance and energy. I would say this is a touch less sibilant to the Annihilator or the likes of the SimGot EA500 on the red nozzle. It's a double-edged sword. Finally, to wrap these impressions up, there are very few sets that I've tried that give me this combination of decent bass, mids, and treble performance while still maintaining such a unique tuning. And I don't really get why this set gets so much flack than praise. I can understand that treble and mids can come across really offensive to some people, and I know some people swear by neutrality, but if I was to try and give you a list of songs that work really well with this set, it's extremely versatile. Obviously, there's a caveat of some tracks being harsh. In comparison to something like the Monarch Mark III, for example, actually. Monarch Mark III has that slightly warmer sound in comparison to the GAEA, but the mids don't even come close. And the fact that it can have this unique of a tuning while maintaining that level of versatility, it makes it an IEM that's worth talking about, especially in the conversation of top of the lines. Now, this set at retail, MSRP, is $1,300 US, and I don't want any one of you buy it at that price. Effect Audio and Lee might hate me for saying this, but I've actually seen a lot of great deals in the used market for these sets, and I've even seen it go for less than half of the retail price. So I would highly suggest having a look at the used market if you do want to pick up a set. And I would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity to demo it first. Because I've gotten many people to try this set, and it's been a 50-50 response. Some people hate it, some people love it. This just so happens to be my most favorite set. That too paired with the RU6. Without the RU6, I don't know much about that. And I want you guys to repeat after me. We do not need a kilobuck IEM to be happy. There's tons of sets in the market right now around $100 or less that sound absolutely phenomenal. Makes it really tricky to justify spending this much on the GAEA. But if this is a set you've been eyeing for, I hope my impressions have helped in clarifying that pursuit. Now, lastly, my rating system, especially for the GAEA. I would give this set a 9 out of 10 for musicality, an 8 out of 10 for the bass, an 8 out of 10 for the treble, and a 10 out of 10 for the mids. Versatility across genres, I give this a 9 out of 10 as well, giving it an overall score of 8.8 out of 10. That's it for the review. Let me know what you guys think of this set. Have you heard it? Are you planning on buying the GAEA? Let me know in the comments if you like the review. Please leave a like. If you dislike it, then dislike it. And if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. It will really help the channel since I've just started, and I would highly appreciate it. This is Nams from the Sensory Expanse, and I'm out.